Do you see on the screen a bunch of unidentified objects climbing straight up the wall? They look like some sort of baby birds, but they behave like characters straight out of those mesmerizing movies. Those tiny, seemingly fragile bodies appear to be controlled by something, relentlessly climbing up, even falling down without any apparent harm. This video has been confirmed to be real. They're a group of Adam's genetically modified creatures, and we're all quite familiar with them, even though folks in Nanjing always say no duck can survive crossing the Qinhuai River, or that in Beijing they could kill hundreds of millions of ducks each year. But do we really understand them? Today, let's dive into the tale of these ducks. Alright, let's take a little gander at the geese first. They say geese are fierce. That one goose can chase away 2 tigers from the garden. They also tell tales of a gray goose wandering into the territory of the ferocious King Kong, so much so that even King Kong would chest pound and retreat. But in reality, ducks are way more advanced than geese by leaps and bounds. They belong to the next generation of geese. Can you believe a duck can take down 4 tigers? This is a true story caught on camera at a zoo in Southeast Asia. On that day, under the watchful eyes of a group of tourists, a jeep armed with heavy weaponry stormed into the tiger enclosure. They looked extraordinary, resembling wild Bengal tigers. The jeep stopped by a deep pool of water, about 5 to 6 meters deep, and threw a duck right in the middle. The duck dove straight into the water with a huge splash. Any other creature would have been shaken immediately, but not the duck. It kept its cool and began to float on the surface. At the same time, 2 tigers pounced, and the duck vanished. The tourists were feeling sorry for the duck's fate when suddenly the tigers raised their heads in confusion, searching around. Turns out, the duck had escaped. It's like it had eyes in the back of its head, disappearing like a magician after being pounced on multiple times by the tigers. The king of all beasts was challenged by a tiny little duck to the point where he had to call for help from 2 other tigers in the nearby pond, but it seemed ineffective. The duck even sneaked out from behind as if to mock the king of the jungle. It swam around happily without fleeing, almost like it was teasing. We don't know if the 4 tigers eventually caught the duck, but a zoo in Australia gave an answer. Tigers usually chase until they're exhausted before giving up on the shore. We all know ducks can dive, but how can they anticipate attacks from behind? In fact, since 1986, biologists have been researching this. Professor Graham R. Martin from the University of Birmingham in England revealed that ducks have an astonishing 570° panoramic vision. First, let's compare it to humans. Our eyes are on a large face and look straight ahead, so without turning our heads, we can only see 180° from left to right and 135° from top to bottom. Although, when it comes to chickens and geese, birds have very wide vision, able to see behind without turning their heads. Professor Martin used data to show us that this claim is still somewhat modest. He studied 2 bird species, the Cory bustard and the great egret. The professor found that their top-down vision is equivalent to humans, and their front-to-back vision has blind spots of 56° and 72° respectively. But then, he extended his research to include the griffon vulture, the cow-eyed heron, and the great auk. Their vision was even more expanded. However, when Professor Martin studied the pink-eared duck, he said, "It's unbelievable that they can truly see behind without turning their heads." Moreover, in terms of top-down vision, it can see 198°, meaning it can see both the top of its head as well as behind its head. The only flaw in a duck's vision is below. From Professor Martin's research map, we can see below the duck's bill. There's a large green blind spot, but that's no biggie. Do you know about the big mouths of duckbills? Essentially, this flat bill design is a sensor. A duck's bill is also a radar. It doesn't need eyes to sense a lot of external signals, even when diving under mud. Additionally, in a duck's mouth, there's a row of structures resembling teeth. Called the pecten. It can sense hydrological conditions, while helping the duck filter food like small fish and shrimp. So, with a radar mouth and panoramic ease, the duck is truly one of the very few powerful creatures with vision in nature. However, the question arises, ducks are pretty tricky to catch. How do humans manage to catch them? Flashback 23 years ago, in May 2000, Xinjiang suffered from a locust plague unseen in a century. Witnessing vast areas from one end to another in Xinjiang being devastated by locusts, urgent messages were sent nationwide. Not long after, Yang Dayuan, a large duck farmer in Jiangxi province, received a call demanding an urgent order of 10,000 ducklings, with the condition that all grown ducks would be sent to Xinjiang afterward. Yang Dayuan was beaming with pride that his ducklings were chosen. Just 43 days later, 10,000 grown ducks descended upon Karame, Xinjiang, immediately. At that time, workers from the Xinjiang Academy of Agricultural Sciences were wearing locust-proof masks. These 10,000 ducks marched into the fields and devoured without hesitation. According to statistics, each duck ate about 200 locusts a day, so they wiped out 2 million locusts from dawn to dusk. Most importantly, after a few days, the duck army had eaten up all the locusts, even the ones that hadn't hatched yet. In 2020, the African locust plague swept all the way to Pakistan. Seeing the world's largest locust plague about to cross the Himalayas and invade China, the Jiangxi Duck Army once again took the field. The locusts truly dared not cross the border, all stopping at India. This is the organization of ducks in human society. They're very easily led. As you can see in these videos, one person can catch a whole bunch of them, and what they show in the pond, that alertness is entirely different. This difference is because humans have domesticated ducks. How did we do that? Actually, it's quite simple. Do you remember the term imprinting from elementary school textbooks? Many bird species will regard the first thing they see after hatching as their mother and follow it instinctively. Ducks are the epitome of this phenomenon. Going back to the first video. Actually, on the wall, there's a mother duck patiently waiting for her ducklings. Driven by the instinct of imprinting and following, the ducklings struggle to climb the wall like that. Then, humans exploited that instinct to domesticate ducks. One side of the duck flock on the farm will see humans as their mother. On the other hand, if you want to chase away the duck flock, you just need to control the lead duck. Thousands of ducks will follow. Even if there's a duck slaughterhouse in front of them, they'll still march on. In addition to wall climbing, it can also float on water and even jump from heights. The limit of a jump probably comes from the Arctic snow goose. Despite being called a goose, it's also a member of the Anatidae family, closely related to ducks. To avoid Arctic foxes and other natural enemies, mother snow geese will build nests on a cliff 122 nm high. When the snow goose chicks hatch, they won't hesitate to follow their mother and jump off the cliff. Don't worry, most snow goose chicks can land safely. In fact, even regular ducklings can easily jump from heights over 15 meters without getting hurt. Why is that? Experts believe this principle is no different from ants not dying when falling. Firstly, the weight of a duckling is very light, only about 30 grams. Also, if you notice closely, when a duckling jumps, its body is stretched like a flying wing. Moreover, duckling feathers not only have cushioning ability, but also catch the wind very well. Therefore, gravity and air resistance are balanced, and the duckling will land slowly on the ground. However, as the ducklings grow up, their unique skills like floating on water, jumping on walls, and flying gradually disappear as they gain weight and stiffen up. At that point, we all think they'll become ordinary ducks. But do you remember They're all creatures carrying Adam's genes in their bodies, which will bring about even more terrifying superpowers. Some people say the electromagnetic launch from an aircraft carrier is fierce, capable of propelling a 25-ton aircraft to a speed of 300 km/h in less than 2 seconds. But in reality, after hearing this data, the duck gang might have burst into laughter. When it comes to propulsion, humans are still far behind. Ducks can propel an organ in their bodies outwards up to 20 cm in less than 0.36 seconds, with an instantaneous speed of 1.6 meters per second. They also have a flexible cloaca, handling any twists, turns, or rotations effortlessly. This organ of theirs is just like a wine bottle opener tool. As a product of realism, its size, proportions, and shape are truly similar. There's an evolutionary biologist named Patty Brennan. She's been particularly studying this organ in ducks. In bird species, only 3% of them have this organ. Do you remember the cloaca T separation in chickens we talked about in the previous video? First off, hens can extract a bit of T from their bodies at any time to lay eggs and hatch chicks. Then, to a certain extent, hens can actively choose the type of T they use to lay eggs. As a result, an armed sexual race among bird species begins. The males want to provide as much T for the females as possible, while the females, except for their lovers, really aren't willing to accept too much T. So, under the coordination of nature, we've seen a scene like this. 2 young chickens meet on the ground. In just a moment, the male flies towards the female, then quickly runs away from the scene. By now, the male has poured the tea, while the female appears helpless. This is the somewhat coercive mating behavior of birds. Maybe for this reason, nature has turned 97% of bird species into teacups, seizing the offending tool to prevent similar tragedies, and ducks are one of them. However, nature can't match Adam's genes. After the duck's offending tool is seized, it's awakened by Adam's gene. Furthermore, Adam's gene makes the duck's offending tool even more ferocious than an electromagnetic stone thrower. Apart from speed and strength, its size is also astonishing. A normal duck's tool is about 20 cm long, and the duck species known as the Argentine lake duck, Oxyura vittata, can even reach up to 42.5 cm. A bit curious is why these offending tools have a spiral shape like a bottle opener. Dr. Patty revealed that she once conducted a series of experiments. First, she prepared 4 glass test tubes: straight, clockwise spiral, counterclockwise spiral, and zigzag. The experiment results are as follows. Within 0.4 seconds, the success rate of the straight tube was 8.9, the clockwise spiral tube was 5.7, the counterclockwise spiral tube was 1.7, and the zigzag tube was 2.8. Dr. Patty believes that these data have explained why the offending tool of the duck has such a unique shape. And to cope with the sneak attacks of the male ducks, the female ducks had no choice but to evolve further. They also equipped themselves with this Adam gene instead of a robust body. The maze of the female is actually similar to the spiral path of the male, but in the opposite direction. Moreover, to better defend themselves, the maze of the female duck has evolved into dead ends. The male duck copes by elongating and branching on the weapon, effectively eliminating the T of previous ducks. This miraculous weapon is also equipped with a regeneration function. That means, if excessive force is used during the breeding season, causing the weapon to fall off easily, in the next breeding season, Adam's genes will gift it with another equally powerful weapon. That's just a glimpse of the fun tales about ducks in today's video. See you next time for more quacky adventures. Bye for now.